Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of Don't Yuck My Yum. I'm Courtney.
I'm Carlito.
And if you don't already know, we're a newly married couple, and, sometimes newly married people like to argue.
That's right. So basically, the gist of this podcast is for us to get out our anger and frustrations towards each other by having one of us watch, read, maybe even listen to something that the other one has seen before and really likes, and the person who is watching it either has the choice to yuck it or yum it. So basically, like, if I make Courtney watch something, which we're doing this episode, she can decide whether she likes it or hates it. In the last episode, our first episode, we did The Greatest Showman, and I kind of, look, what was my decision on it? I was kind of meh.
He was a meh. He was in between. Meh. He didn't really hate it, but
no.
He wasn't completely for it. But I think you've kind of had some time to think more on it.
Yeah, my opinion's changed. I don't like it at all now. I think it's worse now. Just because a couple of my friends just like texted me about it, like just the episode. But one of my friends texted me, about the subject because The Greatest Showman's about P.T. Barnum. And, like, in the last episode, I, incited a lot of things. Like, I'm pretty sure P.T. Barnum probably wasn't the greatest guy, and the circus is kind of, like, a dark era for, like, entertainment. And then my friend Paul said, like, oh, yeah, P.T. Barnum was terrible. He's just saying it, but I'm, like, knowing my friend Paul, he knows a lot about, like, historical, like, people and stuff. He's just really smart. So he was just, like, P.T. Barnum, like, stole from like the people he used and like pocket all the money, and apparently was really abusive towards animals. And so I think my new opinion on The Greatest Showman is it's gross.
Okay. But we weren't talking about P.T. Barnum the person. We were talking about the movie.
Right. But I think my argument for it now is just that everyone, like, I maybe not everyone knew maybe what a terrible person P.T. Barnum was.
I didn't. I had never heard of him before this movie. I didn't know anything about it. I was just more like Hugh Jackman, Zendaya, and Zac Efron singing and dancing and being awesome, and that was all I got from it.
Right.
But yes, granted, being a terrible person, stealing and abusing animals, that's a no-no. We don't like that.
It's almost like weird propaganda for him. Like, it's like, P.T. Barnum was a great guy, and it's like
no, he really wasn't.
He really wasn't, though.
Okay.
But you've heard of Barnum and Bailey, right? Barnum and Bailey Circus?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Because I did a little more research on P.T. Barnum. I guess he didn't really get into the circus stuff much later until his 60s.
Oh, okay.
And he, like found that Bailey guy. I don't know his first name. I didn't do much research, obviously. But they were the ones who kind of formed the circus together. Before then, I think P.T. Barnum, he was more into, like, he had, like, museums, and he had, like, the Fiji mermaid I talked about.
Right.
Like, he did kind of things like that, like hoaxes, almost,
Yeah.
I was wondering if he had, a jackalope.
We will never know.
Do you know what a jackalope is?
Yes, I know what a jackalope is.
Oh, what is it?
It's a wild giant rabbit with horns, right?
Wrong. No, it's antlers.
Okay, antlers. But it's a rabbit.
Yeah, it's a rabbit.
It's a big rabbit with antlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I know that because they had a stuffed one in Longhorn.
Longhorn?
Yeah, the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it was like you entered the restaurant and there sat this
They had a jackalope. That's weird.
I'm not dying, though.
I mean, I know they had, I always saw jackalopes in, like, just, like, little bars or whatever, like, backwood bars back home, West Virginia. That's usually where I'd see them.
Yeah. Well, I think Longhorn, that was kind of the shtick of this restaurant, is everything was, like, like the big buffaloes with the horns. They're like, well, let's just add in the jackalope.
Just put the jackalope in there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of weird.
But, yeah, okay, it makes sense. P.T. Barnum, not such a great guy, but, the movie itself, entertaining. I think you can't go wrong with the music. Like, let's say you didn't watch the movie, and I just was playing the music for you.
Yeah.
You have to admit, you would be dancing to it.
Sure, yeah.
It's catchy.
I feel manipulated by this movie.
Well, okay, so that was last week's episode.
Yeah. Well, technically, like over the weekend. So we're actually filming this episode earlier than we usually would because we're going away this weekend and we're not going to feel like recording while we're gone.
Right.
So we figure let's go ahead and let's record now. Let's get a second episode out there for everyone who's already listening to us. I hope you all are enjoying, the podcast right now. It's still in the works. We're getting used to it, but I think we'll get a flow here going.
Yeah.
So
shout out to my sister for putting it together, our Instagram. And
yes.
She's become
Thank
like
you, Kelsey.
our, what did you say, PR?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You like texted her and you were like, hey, do you want to,
Like,
what did you ask her?
Pretty much just like,
oh, do you want to run our Instagram? And then she kind of just became the PR person.
Yeah, it was just like it was
you guys
more
should do
like
this and this. And
it was
and she made the cover, like the thumbnail art that all you guys see. She
which
did
is so
that.
cute.
It's adorable. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it. She put together the Instagram, and she's been such a big help. So hope that she continues to be such a big help because we don't know how to do that because that's like the part I don't know crap about. I'm like, I don't know that stuff. I don't. The only thing we need is a jingle.
Stay tuned.
We'll be in for that.
We'll be in for that.
Yeah.
So, babe, why don't we get to the second episode's content?
No.
So.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. This was your choice.
Yes. So, interesting about this one, though, we didn't just watch it. We actually watched this on our honeymoon.
Yes.
And what brought it up?
You had been wanting me to see this movie for quite some time.
Oh, I know what it was. So, because I think it... Well, actually, no, because I think that was the day after. What was... Because our honeymoon was in Disney.
Yes.
And what night did we go to the Italian restaurant? Was that the...
Gosh, I would say maybe like...
Was that the second night?
The second night.
So we didn't go to a park that day.
No, I don't think so. But yeah, I know you've been wanting to watch this for a while, and obviously it's one of your favorites.
Yeah.
And we kind of had some downtime, so you were like, babe, how do you feel? I know this is our honeymoon, but how would you feel about watching The Godfather?
Yes.
Which shows how great of a wife I am because
you sat through all of it.
I said yes to watch The Godfather on my honeymoon.
Well, you gotta admit, it was a good time.
It was something.
I will say I give you kudos for, like, I couldn't tell if you were enjoying it or not while you're watching it, but you never seemed bored or you never were like, oh my gosh, how much longer is this? Like, how much longer? Because it's a long movie.
It's long, I must say. It was a lot longer than I thought. I mean,
yeah,
obviously,
it's long. It's almost 3 hours.
I don't live on a rock. I know what The Godfather is. I've heard of it. I know the quotes, but it was like, again, it wasn't something I just sat down and watched. It wasn't on my radar. It wasn't something I owned. So.
Oh, I owned it.
Oh,
so
that's your family.
Could you imagine? I don't know how old I was. I was young though when I got the original trilogy for Christmas. I got like all the DVDs and stuff. I was young and I would watch those movies like back to back.
How young were you?
Oh, I'm probably like 13, 14.
Oh, that's way too young. I'm sorry.
I loved them though. I thought they were so good. They were cozy to me. Like I don't know. I just loved.
Honestly, you were probably the only
loved watching
American to say the Godfather trilogy is cozy.
Yeah.
This is not some curl up with a blanket kind of movie.
Oh, it is for me. I love it. Because it's just like I know it's gonna be good. Like the story's just so compelling as far as like somewhat of my heritage. So there's a lot of little things I can relate to as mostly like with like how the characters interact with each other.
Sure, yeah,
it's very familiar in my family.
Yeah, your Italianness come out in these movies. Like, granted, this is kind of extreme, but just from visiting your family and just seeing you guys interact and how you guys always say, "Oh, it's the Italians." Like, I can see that.
You're just yelling at each other all the time.
just the outgoingness of you guys and just.
Does it feel like we all just like talk at once but somehow we can all track what each other's saying,
right,
and you're just like, what's happening?
It's definitely like a language to learn, to be sure.
Yeah.
But it's like you're all talking, but you're all feeding each other. It's like eat.
Yeah.
But the food's so good, so why not?
Well, we're like feeding each other like with food, but we're also like feeding into each other's like crazy hyperness. You know, it's just like it just escalates on itself.
Sure.
And then my grandfather's just sitting there with the beer, just like. Shout out to my pap, by the way. He's 91 today.
91 today.
And
on the 5th of January.
We FaceTimed him earlier, and poor guy. So it's like, I'm the only child. My mom just had me, and then it's my 2 aunts, and they didn't have any children. So they're throwing the party for him, and I mean, God bless them. But they are just running around like crazy, trying to just order pizza and all this stuff. And I can just see like my pap's just sitting there with the beer like, oh man, this woo.
He looked really good though.
No, he was
91.
He looked great. He looks great for 91.
Yeah. Give him props, Pap.
He's not in goblin territory yet.
No, he's cute.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically, yeah, we were on our honeymoon, and I really wanted to watch The Godfather because we went to that Italian restaurant because you've never seen it before, and I was like, oh heck, let's do it, you know, like why not? And I think what I was talking about us going to a park was because I think the next day I saw the trailer for the re-edit of Godfather 3,
right.
Which, can I talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, if you're not a fan of The Godfather, or like if you're very new to, I mean, obviously we're going to spoil this movie. So if you don't want to know anything about it, watch
Spoilers
it.
ahead.
And then if you want to listen to us talk about whether Courtney likes it or not, come back. But there are 3 Godfather movies. And then the third one came out in like 1990. So many years after the first 2 had been filmed. So the third movie, I think, and I'd heard about this years back, that originally Francis Ford Coppola, the man who directed The Godfathers, and Mario Puzo, the man who wrote the original novel that the films are based off of, they had a different, like a completely different film in mind for Godfather Part 3, and it was going to be called The Death of Michael Corleone. It wasn't going to have Godfather in the title.
Right.
So, but obviously, like, I think a lot of what they did, like, I don't know what happened, but I guess they just had to refilm a bunch of stuff for some reason because the studio didn't like it. And so we got the version of The Godfather 3 that we had for a while. But recently, Coppola was able to somehow get a bunch of like the negative films from Paramount and do like a complete like re-enhance of like all that footage and re-edit the film how he originally intended it. So now there's like this new version of The Godfather 3 that's, you can watch it on streaming right now. It's called The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. That's the whole title. And apparently like reimagines that movie, and it's a more of a satisfactory ending to like that trilogy. So I've been kind of like on a Godfather high recently, so I'm really excited that we're doing this.
Yeah, I think that was also kind of like a motivation for you to get me to watch the Godfather films because you knew this was coming.
I knew it was coming. Oh yeah, I did. I knew it was coming, but
like, I want you to see this third remake, but you need to see the first 2, obviously.
Yeah, you need to see the 2 originals. And I'll admit, like, I've only, because like I said, my family had gotten me the DVDs when I was young, but I think I only watched Godfather 3 once. Like, I watched through all the movies.
Right.
And I watched Godfather 3, and I was like, that's okay. And I don't think I've ever watched that again.
Seems to be a popular opinion of the third. It's just kind of like we don't talk about it, or it's
okay.
A thing.
Well, it's not like it's terrible. It's not a terrible movie. It's just like the first 2 are just so good, and it's hard to like, you know, it's almost like if you watch the original. I almost had the same feeling whenever I'd watch the original Star Wars trilogy. Like, I always felt like whenever I got to Return of the Jedi, I kind of like sighed because I'm just like, oh, Jabba's palace and the Ewoks. Like I can't do it. I can't do it. And it was the kind of the same for Godfather, but it was also like how like you felt about like watching it the first time. It's like it's long, and I'm like, I don't really want to watch this.
It's a lot. Like it's
a lot.
I think I underestimate, and I should have known, like, this is a mob movie. There's going to be, you know, killing and violence.
Oh,
I think I underestimated the constant darkness of it all. Like, even in the beginning, you're having the daughter's wedding, right?
Yeah.
And it's this big celebratory day, and there's, I would say, like, hundreds of people at this wedding. And, you know, people are dancing, having a good time, and yet you have the patriarch of the family just having these meetings with these people, like, I'm about to do this favor for you. Like, well, who do you need me to, you know, kill and stuff? I'm like, oh my God. Like,
well,
like your daughter got married. She's having her wedding, and you're having these really serious meetings in this dark room. You can't really see people's faces. And I think I read somewhere that it was like they purposely, the cinematography was dark for this because they really didn't want to show his makeup. Like Marlon Brando's.
Yeah, you can tell if
it's not quite right. Like, if you're really looking at his face, you're like, something is off. Like, they've definitely they've aged him.
They tried to age him up
with makeup.
Because I don't think he was as old at the time.
No, he wasn't that old at the time. No.
Because I think if you watch, because I don't think he did many movies after this. I think he did, but not as popular ones. Like, I think he did. Well, no, he did Superman. If you ever seen Superman the movie, he plays Kal-El. He plays Superman's dad on Krypton. And that Superman, I think, was made after The Godfather. He looks so much younger. Right. Like, I think they white his hair up, but he doesn't look that old. No. But yeah, you're right about the makeup, because I think you can tell in other scenes where there's more light, especially the scene where at the end where him and Al Pacino, when him and Michael are talking, like, and they're just like by his garden and stuff. You can tell it's like,
something's not quite right.
Yeah,
but it just for me, it was just a lot.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot for the first time.
Yeah, like, I think I have mixed feelings about this movie because I don't know if it's just like, it's definitely a guy's movie, and it's very, like, you know, it's violent. There's profanity. There's you watch a man beat up on his wife. Like, there's a lot that you see. So it was, for me, I don't know if I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to say naive about it all, but just to see it.
Right.
It's like, woo, okay.
It's a lot.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so it's like, for me, I don't want to say it's like I loved it. It was more like I respected the film because I can see that it was made well.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think they did a great job. It was just like, dang.
What was the most shocking scene? I'm thinking, there's a scene I'm thinking in my head, but I don't know if you're going to say it.
Is it terrible that I feel like I've blocked out a lot of the really violent stuff? I'm like, oof, no, don't want to think about that.
See, that's so surprising, because I feel like, to me, it's like, this is a violent movie, but this is like 70s violence.
I know.
Like, the way movies are made today, they can make it a lot more violent. And I don't mean just like gruesome, like a gross out horror movie, but just, I mean, like watching someone get like shot in the head or stabbed in the face. Like, it's in movies nowadays, they make it look very real. And I feel like with this movie, like, you kind of watch it and I'm like, there are some parts, like, watching it, because I think I haven't seen it in a few years, so it's like kind of being more of an adult now. I'm like, okay, like, I'm seeing a lot more than I used to.
Right.
But I'm still like, there's a lot of the violence in this still looks real, I'd say. It still looks good.
I think what it was so heavy about it is, like, none of it seemed overly top, like, special effects wise. It all seemed
it was all very practical,
realistic in the violence, which I think is what made it worse. Because I was like, this could all
looks real
happen.
Kinda.
This all looks pretty real.
Yeah.
So what would you ask me? What was
the most shocking scene?
Scene?
I think I remember a part where you started to kind of panic.
I think the most.
Oh God.
Yeah, one of the most shocking.
She pulled up the picture.
Yeah, because I was like, I'm pretty sure I remember this. So, wait, who was he again, babe? The guy.
His name is. I don't even know if they ever say his first name. They do. I can't remember. But his name's Waltz. I think he's a. I don't know who he's supposed to be, like, a version of, but he's like a big Hollywood movie producer.
Right.
In the movie.
Right. Well, I think that's what was hard for me is to keep everyone on track. Like, okay, their names and who's who. There was just so many
there's a lot
in and
of
out characters. I was like, wait, who's this guy? How is he connected? What does he do? Anyway, that was kind of confusing to me, which kind of made me not like it as much, just because it felt like it was kind of going over my head a bit. But the most shocking thing was when that guy wakes up in his bed covered in blood, and he reveals his blankets to the horse's head.
So how does that happen? Well, so what happens is, like, what leads into that scene is there's this guy named Johnny Fontaine who is...
Yeah, the actor, right?
Yeah, he's kind of like a version of Frank Sinatra in this world, and he's actually the actual godson to Marlon Brando's character, Vito Corleone.
Yeah.
So this Hollywood movie producer won't give him the film in this... the role in this film that would make him a big star, but this producer doesn't give it to him. So to send this guy a message... They cut off his prize horse's head and put it in his bed with him, so he wakes up with the horse's head.
Oh, it's terrible.
In his bed. Yeah, how'd that make you feel?
Well, I love horses.
Yeah.
I was like, no, like, it was clearly fake. Like, if you're looking at this horse's head, you're like, okay, that's a very proppy head.
Yeah.
But it was...
But they do it so quick that it does look real.
Yeah, they do it so quick that you're like,
I think it looks real. God. I think it still looks real, like, when I watch that.
I think the tongue is what gives it away.
Oh, is his tongue? The tongue lolling out?
Yeah, the tongue's kind of out, and I was like, ugh.
Oh, I never noticed that. I just noticed, like the milked over eyes.
Yeah.
That always freaks me out.
Another shocking scene that I did not see coming was when Michael was in Sicily, and his new wife, she was wanting to learn to drive. And she was like, oh, I'll drive you. Like, they had to go somewhere. And she's the only one in the car. And then, like, Michael kind of puts two and two together that there's a bomb in that car.
Well, something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the car just explodes.
It just explodes with her inside.
With her inside. I didn't see that coming, and that shocked me.
No, yeah, I know. There was a lot I was, like, holding my tongue on. Or I was watching, but I was, like, watching you.
One eye is looking at the TV, and one eye is looking at me.
Yeah, because there's so much crazy stuff that happens in this movie. I'm like, I want her to, like, I want to see her reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. I didn't expect that. I really didn't care about her, but I still felt really bad. That
was something that, like, watching it this time with you kind of pointed out. You're like, she doesn't have much character.
No, I was like, she has no dialogue. Like, he meets her, thinks she's pretty.
She says very little.
She says so little. You have nothing about her. Next thing you know, they're getting married, and then next thing you know, she blows up. I'm like, oh, well, that's why, I guess.
Yeah, she was there to, like, give him, like, some sort of, like, tragedy.
I think maybe it's just me, but I felt like all of the female characters, there's not much, but they really either didn't have much to say, or they were just their characters were kind of just blown off.
Mm-hmm. I'd say the one female character gets the most screen time is
probably Kate.
Kay,
right?
Kay, yeah.
Kay.
That's Kay's Diane Keaton, right?
Yeah, that's Diane Keaton. You see her more in the second.
She gets
film.
more play in the second one.
But yeah, in this one, she's kind of like the new girlfriend, and then things start to go down with Michael's family, and he's having to get more involved, so you don't really see her as much.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think of? I'll ask you this: like, what do you think of Michael Corleone, Al Pacino's character? Like, I think his arc is one of the saddest and most, like, terrible things. Like, what do you think of that? Like, how do you feel about, like, his... Just like who? Because if you remember the beginning of the movie,
yes,
he's so happy-go-lucky and like happy.
He just came back from the war.
He's with his girl.
He's got a girl. He wants to marry her. She's not Italian. She's
not Italian.
Which I think was very deliberate. Was like she was no way going to be involved in his family's stuff, and I think he just really wanted that out. And then life just dealt him a crappy hand. And he gets sucked into it. And I just think being the character that he is, having to come in and save the day or take control, I think what drove him to be involved, especially when his dad, Vito, is like, you know, they try to kill him.
They try to assassinate him,
attempt on his life. And so then, and him being like, you know, at the hospital when they try to come back and finish the job.
That's such a good scene.
Like, I think that was kind of it for him. He's like, okay, now I'm involved. And now this is personal.
Were you like tensing up during that hospital scene? Because that is my
Yes.
favorite scene, I think, of that whole movie. I love that scene so much. It's so good. So what happens is Michael goes to the hospital because his father, Vito Corleone, the Godfather, they could make you enough you can't refuse. That guy.
Yeah.
He is attempted assassinated. So he's in the hospital. He's on like all oxygen tubes, whatever. I mean, he's alive, but he got shot 5 times in his back, and somehow he's still alive.
Yeah, how?
He's just a real tough son of a gun.
Apparently.
So Michael goes to the hospital to visit him. When he gets there, there's no guards. There's no one. And he's like confused. He's like, wait, what's going on? There's no guards here. There's no one watching my father. Like, what's happening? And a nurse comes in, and the nurse is like, you gotta leave. You can't be here.
Yeah, it's after hours. You can't, no visiting right now.
Yeah. And he's like, where is everyone? Like, why isn't there anyone watching the room? And he like calls his brother, and it tells his brother, and the brother's like, don't panic. And he's like, I'm not gonna panic. And then they have to move him to another room to keep, so that because they probably know where his room's at. So they're like, we got to put him in another room so they can't find him right away. And then who shows up, babe?
Well, it's not how you think. Like, who shows up is actually, he was the baker, right?
Yeah.
He was the baker that had help from Vito. Like, Vito did a favor for him, right? And he went there to thank him. And it's just like, wrong place, wrong time, sweet guy comes in with a bouquet of flowers. And I'm like, oh, honey, you are in such the wrong place right now.
I know.
And then, so you kind of freak out because you're seeing these footsteps going up the stairs, and you're like holding your breath. You're like, oh my God, they're here.
Yeah.
And then you realize who it is. And then just that whole craziness, the chaos of trying to like get Vito out of there and hide him.
I am Enzo, the baker.
The baker.
If you need help, I help you for your father. It's so good. No, but the lead up, that's all the lead up. The best part is when they go outside.
Oh, yeah.
And they're standing on the front stoop because...
Oh, yeah, because they do a drive-by and it's like, act like you have...
Yeah, he takes the flowers and he throws them away and he just like...
Put your hand in your pockets and act like you got a gun. I'm like,
and you can just see on the baker this dude's face. He's just a sweet Italian man who all he does is bake. He's like he's probably as cute as a button, like all these people on the Great British Bake Off.
Yeah,
that's all he does. He just wants to make cakes for a living. And this guy's telling him, "Put your hand in your pocket like you got a gun." And they have to just stand there. And then this car drives by, and they just stand there all cool. And then the car drives away, and then it's just like, oh, it's so good. And you just like, you see he starts, his hands are shaking.
Yeah.
He's just so nervous. And Michael has to help him light his cigarette. That is the best part of that movie. But like, because what you said was, oh, he was in like the wrong place at the wrong time. He was.
But it worked for Michael's favor.
It worked out for Michael's favor. It works out for that guy's favor. Because he just paid his debt back to Vito Corleone in the biggest way.
Oh, yeah.
He's set for life. Like, he doesn't have to worry about anything ever again. He ever needs help, he can turn to the Corleone family.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
What else?
What else? What?
What else did you feel about the movie?
I think there's so much. I'm like trying to think back on like everything. Just like the crazy death scene of Sonny, the older brother. Like, he was such a hothead.
Because you don't watch movies like this.
No, it's just this was so dark and so violent, and like I wouldn't say this has a happy ending. Like, there's no happy endings.
I don't think any of these movies have a happy ending.
No, like there's nothing lighthearted about this at all. So, it's not really my thing. So, but I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
So it was definitely an experience. Like, just,
did the length bother you at all, or was it just because you kind of seemed like it breezed by?
Parts did. Like,
yeah.
I think at the time I was kind of aware of the length. I'm like, this is this is long. Like, there's still an hour left or something. Like, or we're just halfway through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what else could happen? Like, there's so much has already happened.
Right.
But I think the story did well of making it, like, keeping it together and it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Like, yes, this happens and this happens. And, you know, it's like the sister marries this terrible, abusive man. And then Sonny gets angry and wants to go after him.
Yeah,
and,
how'd
like,
you feel about
beats him
that?
up.
The just the out of nowhere
Yeah.
wife beating.
Ugh, terrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. Hated watching it.
Isn't it like, it does feel real. Because
oh, yeah.
it's,
Well, like, it's very chaotic and it doesn't feel choreographed. It feels just like her throwing stuff at him and him coming at her and she's, like, crying and then...
Cool, because what starts that argument? Do you remember?
Oh, my gosh. Wasn't it something about her food? Or
No. Well, kinda. She gets a call.
She gets a call?
Yeah. She gets a call from, like, some lady who's just like, can you tell Carl I'm going to be late tonight? Or
Yeah. The mistress.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the mistress calling and her picking up, and it's clearly, the husband having an affair.
Yeah.
And so then, she goes off, and I hate that.
Yeah.
It's just...
Makes your...
It makes your stomach hurt. You're like... You didn't have to marry this girl, but I think the only reason he did was to get close to the Corleone family because he wanted higher status.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And she's...
So he knew he could get in there with
crazy.
them easily.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Sonny just going off and, like, him, like, beating him up in the streets and, like...
That part's great. Oh, swing and a miss,
oh my God,
Sonny.
that was hilarious.
Swing and a miss,
There's
Sonny.
literally a scene where Sonny, the older brother, goes to punch the sister's husband.
I think his name's Carl.
Carl, yeah. And literally does this full-on swing, does not make contact whatsoever.
You can see the
you
space
can see
in between
this,
the punch.
like, half a foot space. But yet you hear a boom. Like, you hear a...
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear a punch. Like, it made contact, but it didn't.
Right.
And then he has to... Then the Carl actor has to give this huge reaction. Like, he just got walloped. Like, oh, God. And you're like, oh, my God, it didn't even touch you. Like,
I know.
It was really funny. I'm like, wait, kept that in?
I love that part just because... No, I mean, like, you know, him missing the punch is funny. But just when Sonny's beating him up, it's not like this beatdown type scene where you see in, like, some movies. It's like Sonny's, like, you can tell he's, like, so angry. He just doesn't know what to do with him. Like, he's just like, I just want to... It's like when you can't... It's like when you're so angry at someone, you can't talk. He's just like, I don't know how to, like, hit this guy. Like, he's just like... He, like, grabs him by the rail. He's, like, grabbing him by the hair, and he's kind of, like, punching him. He's also kind of, like, smacking him really hard.
Yeah.
And then the guy's, like, grabbing onto this railing, and then Sonny just goes down, just, like, starts biting his fingers, like, because he just wants him to let go. He grabs a trash can lid and just starts beating him in the face with it. It's so good because it's like, that's how you would react. If you knew someone was, like, beating up your sister, like, that's how you would react about it, probably.
For sure.
You'd be so upset about it.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's just, and then Sonny's death was crazy.
Yeah, wow. How would you feel about that?
I felt... It was like...
It's overkill, isn't it?
Overwhelmed. Yeah, it was a little much. It was a little too much. I'm like, okay, I think he's dead. Like, 10 guys probably all shot him with a, semi-automatic or whatever it was. Or,
oh, yeah. They got, like, freaking machine guns on him.
Yeah, machine guns on him. Like, I'm like, okay, you got him. Mm-hmm. I think his whole body's filled with bullets.
Yeah.
Like, okay. It was a little much. It was...
Well, do you know why they probably did it that way? I mean, it looks cool in the movie, but there's, like, a purpose for it, too.
Do tell.
There's, like, kind of, like, shows a message. Like, just, like, not to just, like, shoot him once, but just shoot him a bunch, just obliterate him. Mm-hmm. Just to show, like, just, not how powerful one side is, but just show, like, this is how serious we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we will kill your son, and we will, and it's, like, it's a big insult, too, because, you know, you'd want to have, like, it's the Godfather's son. You want to have, like, an open casket funeral. How are you going to have an open casket funeral when his body's just obliterated with bullets?
True.
It's like you need, that's why he goes to the funeral parlor. That guy who owes the Godfather a favor, he's like, that's why he says, I want you to use all your powers, all your skills to, like, make him look normal.
Right.
Because he's just, you cannot. It is probably near impossible to make.
Unrecognizable. Yeah.
Oh yeah, to make someone look normal after they've been riddled with just tons of bullets.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I'd say this is a lot more violent than the last movie we watched.
Oh, I'd say very much so.
You don't really watch violent movies.
I mean, I guess it's just not in my nature to want to watch that.
No,
Like, I don't
obviously.
find that enjoyable to watch. Like, to a degree, like, I'm all for a good fight scene, but when it's just like raw, pure, cold-blooded murder over and over and over again, it's like, okay, it's wearing me down. Like, it's a little much.
What'd you think of like the culture in it? Like, did it feel like you were watching an Italian movie?
Oh, I mean, you
so
were
Italian.
smacked in the face with Italianness. It wasn't even funny. Like, I mean, I enjoy it because I think that I love cultures and, you know, languages and stuff like that. So I'm like, this is cool to really delve into this, you know, Italian family and kind of like, I'm sure it's probably exaggerated to some degree, but I liked when Michael went to Sicily and just to see that and how they live there and stuff like that. And just it's just kind of crazy, like, if it's true about the Italians, how, like, I don't know, it's kind of like they do not forget, you know, like, they will hold a grudge. If you wrong that family, like, you're done, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. That we hold on to a lot of stuff. There's still a lot of things, you know, I hold on to that I don't need to, but I just like to say it every now and again because it makes me feel better. And you're like, just babe,
let it go.
Just let it go. And I'm like, I can't, you don't understand. I cannot let go of this, and I will never. Like, I'll still talk about like a couple of the kids who bullied me in middle school.
I know, and I'm like, you don't even know them. Like,
I don't care. It's like every now and again I just need to bring him up again and just be like, oh, if I just could just go back in time,
things would be different.
I don't know what, just push him down a hill or something. That's a nice little slope, and have
With
everyone
a
laugh at
soft
him.
thing at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. No. It'd be a thing of spikes at the end. Anyway.
No, he wouldn't. You wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't do that.
No.
But it's just like you got to bring that up every now and again. You're just like, oh gosh.
No, because if you hold on to things and it just ultimately
it makes me feel
wears
better.
You down.
No, it just makes me feel better. I don't know why.
think
It's a weird thing.
You're telling yourself that.
It's a weird thing that like, and it's weird because it's like, because I actually don't have as much Italian blood in me as I thought I did.
Right.
But I think it doesn't matter how much blood you have. If you're raised in like that kind of household,
I think you were
it's just
raised in that
inbred in you.
mindset. Like,
Yeah.
just like, you are Italian and Italians do this and this is how we think or say and this is how we act. But it's like, it's interesting to me because, you know, yeah, that's like from on your mom's side is the Italianness, but not really your dad's side. So you weren't full blown Italian. Like your parents didn't come from from Italy or anything. But
right,
you guys have just enough to have that personality.
Yeah.
Thrown in there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely you guys aren't as full blown as like the Godfather's family, but
that's like, very high. Well, also like well, like when the because the movie takes place in the 40s,
right? But filmed in the 70s.
But like the 40s, like that was such an enriching time for like the Italian American family because it was like. When the Italians came over, I mean, they were just like crapped upon by everyone. I mean, it was like no one respected them. They had like the worst jobs. They weren't like, I mean, it's like they came from an already like crappy country. Like Italy was it was not glamorous. I mean, everyone like wants to go to Italy now because it's like it's beautiful, all this stuff. Back in the day, it sucked.
Oh yeah,
the government sucked. They took so much money from the people. People lived as like peasants, and they couldn't like their farms would like just get raided, and like they would like take stuff from them. I mean, it was awful. So like, and then coming to America, they were spit upon as well. So like at that point, like once you got to like say the 40s and like a lot of even just a lot of honest Italian businesses had like popped up, but then you had the mafia, and it's all, I know it's like I know it's like people watch these movies and it's kind of like, I'm sure some people have like this reaction of like, oh, that's so cool. It's really not. Like the mafia was not like a good thing.
No, because they would even go after their own. Like,
oh yeah,
they would go after Italians.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they would go. I don't think they would ever like go after like, say like helpless business owners or anything, But they would. If they got hit, they would hit back. I mean, I think you would have some rogue ones every now and again, but if you were doing like stuff like that all the time, I mean, they would catch you, like the higher ups, Because I think a lot of the guys who became, say, like like the capos or the concierges, like of the families, they, you got to think back, like their father or their father's father was probably an impoverished Italian farmer, or had like his own small business and could never make like enough money to like get his family out of hunger or anything,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they very much respected like the hard workers, like with the small time business owners and everything, especially for Italians who probably came over and started from nothing, you know what I mean? And were able to like build a little bit of something. That's a completely different thing. I think the mafia, they were just more interested in like, just like getting in on like already the big stuff that America had to offer. So you had politics and gambling and prostitution,
right? And
eventually drugs, even gas. I think gas was like a big thing that like a bunch of guys got into. You were watching that Michael Francesi. That was, if you ever watch more of him, I think he talks about that was like one of his big things was like scamming like gas or something from like companies or something. But that's how he made a lot of his money.
Well, that going back to the movie, that's about like what the Michael's character didn't want to get into, because like it was the world of the higher families, and the mob was like going into like drugs, and they're like, no, we don't get into that. We just do like gambling.
That's what. Yeah, you mean Michael or Vito?
Well, yeah, started with Vito.
Yeah, he didn't want any of that.
He didn't want any of that. He's like, no, we're just. They called him what, like traditional, so to speak, where like times are changing. And
he didn't want to go with that.
Yeah, he didn't want to go with that, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
it's like, we'll do gambling and we'll do prostitution, but not drugs. Like, because it's so bad to do that, but
to do the other things,
do the other things, like it's all bad.
Watching it this time, I'm like, it is a little like hard on the nose with that stuff, because it's like Robert Duvall's character, who's he's the adopted son of the family. He's also like the lawyer to the family. He's like concierge, he becomes concierge,
which is like an advisor,
the advisor to the family, which in real life he would never be, because he's not Italian. Like, yeah, he was raised by the Godfather, but he's not Italian. He's Irish. Like, they would never let an Irish German man be the concierge of an Italian mob family.
Deal then, like that the Vito made him concierge?
No, because like, well, I think it's just because it's a movie.
Okay.
It's just like it's different. It's kind of cool, but oh crap!
Well, he spoke Italian and stuff like that.
Yeah, because he was raised with them and everything.
But he was for it, right? He was more like
that's the thing. He's just like, narcotics. We got to get into narcotics. It's like the next big thing, now or 10 years from now. And I'm like, how do you know that? Like, you don't know that. I mean, I guess, but it's like a part of me is just like, I don't know if he would be like that on it. You know what I mean? Like, or he would know that much. But I might be wrong, because these guys are really smart. Because you have like. I think I saw something that was like throwing you off a couple times, where there's a scene where Vito and Michael are talking, and it's like after Michael's gotten in charge of the family, and he tells him like, someone's going to approach you about some meeting, and at this meeting you'll be assassinated. Do you remember when he says that?
Yeah, I do.
What did you think of that?
Well, I was confused. I was like, wait, what?
Right. Is it kind of like, how do you know that?
Yeah, like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Like, are you planning this? Like,
I kind of take it as like, Vito's very smart and he's been around the block. Like, he knows. Like, he's like, this is kind of what's happening right now. Someone's going to come to you wanting to talk about this, and you'll be like, this is just how it goes. They want to, like, talk and have a truce or some BS, and really it's like they're just going to kill you.
Right.
And he knows that, like, the person who would approach him, the other family would have someone who's close to Michael approach him. And so it would be someone within the family. So whoever within the family comes to you about some kind of meeting, they're a traitor.
Right. I think that's what also bothered me. I get that it was like a main theme of the film, but just constant backstabbing and treachery and just suspicions, and I'm just like,
you can't trust anyone.
You can't trust anyone. And I think just the senseless killing is what I just can't get on board with. I'm like, why'd you kill him? Why did that guy get killed? Why did you just shoot that guy in the face? Like, why are we doing this? And I get it, it's a movie. But
it's not that, but that's just like how it was, you know?
Like, you cross somebody, or you just happen to be in the wrong crowd or the wrong family.
Well, that's just so cute. I mean, like, it's, I don't mean to sound like demeaning, but it's just like, it's kind of adorable because you're just, your reaction to these movies are just like, why are people so mean to each other? Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, I'm like, I don't have that. It's like you're like a child asking that question. Like, why are people so mean?
It's like, I'm like, why did they do that? I think for me, you could probably ask my parents, and they probably could attest to this, was like, the biggest question I probably had growing up was why. I was probably that child that was like, Dad said something, and I was like, well, why?
Why?
And I'm sure he's like, just because. So like, I'm always just wanting to know motivations. Mm-hmm. Like, well, why did they do that? What was the motivation? How is this, justified? Well, and I'm like, none of this is justified.
Yeah, it's like, the only motivation I can say was like, okay, so we'll use an example, like, okay, Paulie. So do you remember Paulie?
Yeah.
He gets whacked out like towards the beginning of the movie. The only reason he's killed is because he keeps calling in sick. And when he shows up to the house, the main house
they
for
think
work,
they
think he had something to do with Vito's
attempt assassination. They're like, oh, he's been out a lot. He must have been involved.
Well, because he was also I think he's supposed to be the Godfather's like main driver, or no, he is, because he drives around. What's his name? Clemenza and them later. Anyway, but I think he's kind of like the main driver, so he's always like calling in sick. So it's kind of like this, like he had to have something to do with it because he wasn't there the day Vito.
But the guy genuinely seemed sick.
Yeah, he could have been faking it.
Yeah, but
it's like he kept calling in sick, and then of course he's not there when Vito gets shot. It's just suspicious.
It's all suspicion. Like, they just no proof, and I think it's just the fact that they could have just killed an innocent man, which, right in retrospect, none of these men are as innocent. They've all done terrible things.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just like, you could have just killed this guy who had nothing to do with it.
It better to be safe than sorry.
Apparently.
But what I'm getting at is, like, that's their motivation for killing him. That, I mean, like, and that's in the mind of like a mafia man, like, that's justified. To us, it's confusing because we're like, well, do you know? But it's like, oh, I guess. But to you, it's like, but you're killing him, and that's awful. Like, why are you doing that? Why don't you just talk to him?
Yeah, why don't you just ask?
He's not. I mean, what's he going to say? No, I had nothing to do with it. No, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Paulie seems trustworthy.
I think the only really time I did not care when somebody died was near the end when they killed off Carl, the bad brother-in-law who was beating up this sister.
Oh, his death is so awesome.
Like, he comes clean that he had something to do with, what was it? Like, he had
I think he had something to do with Sonny's murder.
I think so, because obviously those two didn't get along.
It's like a big setup because it's like because Carl beats on his wife, who is Sonny's sister. He knows that Sonny's going to come after him because the first time he did it, Sonny like beat him up in the middle of the road, middle of the street, and just didn't care who saw
in broad daylight.
In broad daylight, like whatever. So he knows, like, okay, if I hit her again, he's going to come this way. He has to pass through this, I don't know what they call it.
It was like a checkpoint. It was kind of like...
Yeah, I think it was going from Long Island to Manhattan
Yeah.
or wherever they had to go. But he knew he had to pass through there. So it just seems like a setup. And I think it was, because he does like come clean about it.
Yeah, no, comes clean about it. And then...
So everyone's there waiting for Sonny, and then they blast him away.
So then at the end, when he comes clean and he's pretty much like... Michael's like, you're banished, you're leaving, like, you're never going to be here again. And you honestly think he's going to just go.
I know. You're like, oh my gosh, she's going to let this guy go?
Yeah, and then they take him in the car and do the whole choke out from behind. And I'm like...
Yeah, they stick the wire around his neck, and then they choke him to death. But then what's so brilliant is that, like, the camera's definitely on the hood of the car. So then, like, as he's being choked, you see it through the window, but then you see, like, he gets pulled to the back seat.
Yes, you just see his feet.
And his feet are kicking at the windshield, and it breaks open, like, while he's, like, dying and struggling to get free.
Oh, it's so dramatic.
It's awful.
It's so dramatic.
It's so awesome, though.
I don't feel bad about that at all, because...
No, I don't feel bad about him dying.
No, because he was a terrible person. I mean,
He
all
was
bad.
They're all bad people. But he was also... But he does... I mean, they all deserve it, but he really deserved it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go off track here a little bit and say, am I the only one who is slightly turned off, dare I say annoyed, by Marlon Brando's voice in this film?
Really?
I don't know what... I couldn't really...
Is it... I mean, it's kind of
It's
difficult.
a weird voice. It's a weird voice. This almost higher pitched, like, raspy thing.
It's a rasp voice, yeah.
And he's, like, clearly speaking with stuff in his mouth. And I'm just like, what are you saying? Mm-hmm. Like, this is the weirdest accent I've ever heard. This is a weird way to talk. Yeah. I was just off put by it. And I know everybody quotes it.
I don't think it's, like, an accent. I think I mean, he probably has a slight accent, but it's hard to tell because I think that's just his voice. He just has, like, an aging voice, you know.
But it didn't sound like a normal, like, old person voice. It just was weird to me.
I think it was just he just had an interesting voice. I think that was it. But I think I love it, but because it makes him stand out. Like, he's such a unique character. Like, he could have just done, like, a regular, like, Marlon Brando acting voice, but no, he, like, did, like, something, like, very cool and unique, and he put, like, I think he put cotton in his mouth.
I think that was for, like, his... I don't know if they
like,
kept the cotton in his mouth throughout the whole filming, but I think I read that he had the cotton in his mouth during the time he was, like, auditioning or doing, like, an audition tape. He put cotton in his mouth to give that effect.
Oh, okay.
So they could have done or used something completely different during the filming, because the cotton, I don't think, would hold up.
Maybe not.
While he's trying to do these scenes.
Right, unless he's, like, switching them out.
Like, every 2 minutes.
Cotton boy.
The cotton's dissolving.
He's got to take the cotton out of his mouth, and then he has to, like, put it in, like, a little basket, and he's got to put the new cotton in Marlon Brando's mouth. And
Cotton boy.
And then
like, can you imagine? I was the guy.
I was Cotton Boy on The Godfather.
Who got the cotton out of Marlon Brando's mouth on The Godfather.
What? Why was that your job? I spilled coffee on Coppola numerous times.
I spilled coffee on Coppola.
I think I mean, I wouldn't like to have that job, but I like to think that, like, Marlon Brando's like kind of like smacks him in the face a little, like, every time. Like,
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna just ask you this then. Overall, did you are you going to yuck it or are you gonna yum it? You're not gonna hurt my feelings either way.
Okay. Like, I feel
just
like...
Tread lightly.
Yeah. I mean, okay, is it terrible to say that I'm kind of, like, more than meh? Like, I don't know if we're allowed. Like, are we either yuck it or yum?
Well, we
can't be.
I med in the last episode, but I'm yucking that now. So you can change your opinion. If you want to change your opinion about a movie, like, 5 episodes ago, go ahead. Just like...
We shouldn't.
We shouldn't, but I don't. There's no rules here.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I'm kind of meh on it. Like, if we can have a middle ground, if we're just strictly yuck it or yum it, I'm so sorry, world. I have to yuck it.
Wow. You just yucked the Godfather.
I know, I yucked the Godfather.
Wow.
It's just because it's my opinion. It's mine alone. It's, I know as a movie,
yeah,
it's great. I know it is. I can logically see that. I know it's a very well done movie and very kind of groundbreaking for its time. And it's clearly held up through all these years, and it has such a cult following. So
it's considered one of the greatest films of all time.
Sure. Of course. So I totally respect The Godfather. It's just not for me. I can't.
That's fair.
I just can't get past the violence. And granted, it's a mom movie. It's gonna have violence.
Yeah.
But this is what this is about, and I yucked it.
Wow.
I wouldn't.
That's your opinion. That's fine.
It's not something I'm gonna pick up for myself to watch.
No. I'm going to watch it every year around the holidays.
Which I don't know why you think this is a Christmas movie.
I watch this for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
It's not a happy, home movie, where you're
it's cozy. I like to just wrap up in a blanket, get my hot chocolate, and watch The Godfather.
That is the most psychotic thing to say.
And then The Godfather Part 2, which is even more terrible as far as, what awful things happen.
Honestly, that was worse.
Yeah. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
But yes, Don't Yuck My episode 2.
You're
Courtney's vote.
It.
I am yucking it.
Godfather.
I'm yucking the Godfather.
Let's just put that on the record. You're
Sue
yucking
me.
the Godfather.
I'm gonna start getting hate mail now. I know it.
Probably. Everyone's gonna stop listening to the show.
I know.
Episode 2 in
blame it on the being a female. I mean, that's probably an insult to all females out there, but I don't know. It's just
I wouldn't say that. I'm sure there's plenty of.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm sure girls. I'm sure there's a lot of girls out there who would like it. Maybe there is some guys out there who don't like it. We might be a small group, but I'm giving a voice to that group, and it just wasn't for me.
Well, y'all can rally together and protest me when I'm watching them every Christmas.
No, that's okay. We're not a big vocal group.
Okay, fine. All right. Well. Okay, well, I guess that's it then. That's just...
Yeah.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Well, okay. Do you want to sign us off?
Sure. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in on our second episode of Don't Yuck My Yum. We hope to have you guys come back for episode 3.
Episode 3, 4, 5. I hope they come back for episode 200.
Let's hope we even do a 200.
Yeah, let's see how far we can get.
No promises.
Yeah, no promises. But if we get to episode 2, what should we do? If we get to episode 200, what should we do?
Ooh,
we should do something. No, we should do something crazy on the episode. I should do the whole episode upside down and let the blood flow to my head. And
I think
get delirious.
I think we should let them decide.
Let them decide?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone, well, we have an Instagram. It's called Don't Yuck My Yum.
Don't Yuck My Yum Pod.
Don't Yuck My Yum Pod. Yeah.
Is our Instagram, and we are slowly getting all of the podcasts out there on all podcast streamings.
Yeah, I think right now we're on Anchor.fm. We're on Spotify. I think we're also on
Google
Podcasts, and I think there's one called Breaker or something like that. And there's a few others.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of random ones. We're not on Apple Music yet, but or Apple Podcasts. Sorry, we're not on Apple Podcasts yet, but hopefully
should be coming soon.
Hopefully, yeah, should be coming soon.
Well, thank you much, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you around the bend when we do whatever Courtney's gonna make me watch.
Just around the river bend. Not a
clue.
Gosh,
that's
no. Not a clue.
No. I refuse. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I gotta say. I think that's it, right?
No, you say love you, bye.
I don't want to say that.
Okay.
I don't know if I love everybody who listens to the show.
That's true.
I could just kind of...
We'll build up.
Like them.
Okay.
Eventually, I'll love them all.
Yeah.
All
right, guys.
But yeah, we'll just have to think of just message us on Instagram for what you want us to do for if we get to the 200th episode. I don't know what. That could be anything, but just let us know.
Alrighty.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you next time on Don't Yuck My Yum. Okay, we'll say it at the same time. You ready?
Okay. We'll see you next time on what?
Don't
yuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Don't
yuck
my
yum. Woo!
Pretty good.
Bye.
Hey everybody, this is Carlito Gilchrist from the Don't Yuck My Yum pod. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuning in and listening every week. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to leave a review for the show, you can leave it on Apple Podcasts. You can give us a 1 to 5 star rating. We prefer the 5-star ratings, but it's your opinion. It's whatever you like. As well, you can listen to us on Spotify and Anchor.fm and anywhere else where podcasts are available. I believe we're up on there. If you have any suggestions for future episodes or insights on past episodes, you can always email us at don'tyuckmyyumpod@gmail.com. As well, you can follow us on Don't Yuck My Yum Pod on Instagram. And I just want to say thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. Have a good week. So long. Bye-bye.